Hello, welcome back to Madrona's Pulse Teachings. I am Iris, and we are looking at the astrology of the week ahead. We are talking about September 15th through the 21st. So buckle up, this is a big week. We're talking about leading up to our partial solar eclipse at the 29th degree of Virgo. I have a video out on that eclipse and all the aspects. So here, I think it's actually even more helpful because we're going to look at the energies that are pulling us into that eclipse. And it is dynamic. There are dynamic energies working with us with this eclipse. This is our second eclipse of our eclipse season. Our first was, of course, that lunar eclipse, which was the moon conjunct the North Node in Pisces. Now we're going to have our new moon, which is the sun and the moon together at the 29th final degree of Virgo. And they are talking with that south node, who is at 18 degrees of Virgo. So right away, there's a difference. Our previous eclipse was conjunct the North Node. That is opening us. It still is part of a clearing out, but the eclipse itself was conjunct the North Node. Now we're dealing with this new moon energy working with the South Node in Virgo, which is even more strongly a clearing out, endings, so that we can come into a new beginning. I've been really emphasizing on all of my videos that we're talking about a new beginning that is simultaneously within a bigger cycle of endings and a bigger cycle of new beginnings. So I think it's best to think about whatever you're seeding into and whatever's emerging for you, that this is very much a time of transition. In some ways, moving through to February 2026 is itself a time of liminality, meaning that we're in between states. And yet there is definitely ending and beginning energy present, but just knowing that it's most likely attached to much bigger stories. And some of what's closing out can be pretty big, can be massive stages of this life, can be weaving through if you work with past lives or that's part of your kind of world reality view. It could be pretty big. And I do know lots of folks are commenting that they are in it, but here on Patreon, we're all in it. There's a lot coming up. And so let's see if we can weave some narratives of some of the themes that we're journeying with this week, okay? So again, we're talking about the 15th through the 21st. There is major sun. I tried to film this both outside, inside where you can see outside, and it was all sun blobs. So it's even here, but we're working with the elements. We're weaving. That's what we do. Okay, so as we start this week out, I really do want to mention, I posted about this as well for the 15th, that we have this incredible energy of Venus, who's in Leo and is ending her journey in Leo in this week. This week, we are going to have Venus, Mercury, and Mars technically on the 22nd, but we have 3 personal planets shifting signs, okay? And that's happening during this eclipse energy. So that is significant too, meaning that there's lots going on in our kind of personal embodied realms that's then lining up with massive cycle shiftings and the eclipse and what that represents. So it's a lot of energy. So Venus, who, however, as we start the week out, is at 25 degrees of Leo, she is trining Eris. So Eris is a dwarf planet, is very far away, and when we're working with the archetypes of kind of deep resonances that are more galactic and further away, it's especially when they are in an exact kind of aspect conversation that we really have an opportunity to embody, feel with them. And Eris is a complicated history. She is the goddess of strife and discord. She's Aries' sister. And there, and yet there is also a complicated, very human-centric story in how she got named and discovered. And Heather Ensworth has done wonderful work kind of unveiling that history. And so I just think it's important when we're working with Eris that yes, there is part of her that is discord and strife. And just like, I think it's important, just notice in your body when you hear those words, what happens? Is there fear? Is there excitement? Is there, and even there, discord and strife are part of this experience. And so we also have to be careful about how we work with and interpret certain archetypes. She also has a history of actually representing in her discovery, quote unquote discovery, a spiritual warrior, and the way her name was changed to become Eris. So there's a lot in Eris, both in terms of archetypally, but also in terms of how humans go about creating meaning. And she does, however, always represent and can help us learn about how discord is also sometimes essential, especially right now, because she's not alone. She's conjunct Chiron. She's conjunct Chiron, the wounded healer, who's in Aries at 26 degrees and is going to speak with Venus as well this week, and also Mars and also Juno. And so today, as we start the week out, Venus, Mars, and Juno are all in different exact conversations with Eris. Venus is trining, Mars is opposite, Juno's in an inconjunct for folks that work with our aspects. But just knowing that there is all of this energy, and absolutely we want to lean in, not to externalizing discord, not to feeding that, but to reflecting on how, especially because throughout the rest of the week and through the eclipse, Chiron is especially going to be talking with Mars and with Juno. Venus is going to move more quickly. There is something about our healing journey at this moment, and Chiron is about your healing journey in your, like, reclaiming your primal fires, reclaiming your primal desire, unshaming the word desire, taking it out of ways that we've been taught we're not supposed to have desire or follow desire. Those lessons are usually pretty deep. And there's something about needing to honor desire, and that there might be a bit of discord in that healing journey. And it might come up through relationship. It might come up. And this is, again, not working with Eris as, oh, I need to go and I need to create a fight. That is really not what this energy is opening us up to. We have a puppy dog interruption. Come on up. Come on up. Okay, come on. He's in a total panic. Come on, Finnegan. You can do it. There we go. Finnegan is with us now. I am sorry. It's about how when we kind of slow down and reflect, and this is Aries, I'm leaving straight from filming this to go get a massage because I've got an old hip injury that has surfaced this week. Thank you to every single body worker out there that follows their calling. We need you desperately, and I don't think body workers get enough recognition of how important you are on these healing and living and survival journeys. And Aries, the body, there could be discomfort in the body. There could be discomfort in relationships. And just opening this week with curiosity around what's the message that's coming through. If instead of reacting, I can sit with some of the discomfort coming up. And sometimes this is also about honoring your embodied wisdom, because discomfort has a fine line. And there's times when there's wisdom in sitting with it. And there's also times when there's not wisdom in sitting with it. So that's the journey of following that for ourselves. And then all those planets are going to speak more with Chiron as we move through this week, and it's going to be more even specific about our healing. I do especially think that the Mars opposition with Chiron, that absolutely could bring in one-on-one dynamics. And so if those one-on-one dynamics are coming, if there's kind of struggle, especially during an eclipse, we do want to step aside and try and take time to just know what we're feeling. What do I need to share? What do I maybe not need to share? There's also always a lot of wisdom, and this is usually a learning process of when what we kind of want to say is just, it's not going to be met. It's not going to be heard. And sometimes it just needs to be said. But also there's a lot of wisdom in knowing when we're actually wasting energy trying to speak to someone who can't hear. And it's our work to kind of move on and sit with and let go. Let go of the attachment to possibly if it's relational coming up or it's work or however it is, because we are entering into an eclipse of letting go. Okay. And then as we move on, we're really this week looking at the sun, Mercury. We've just come out of our Mercury-Sun conjunction, and Mercury is going to move ahead of the sun. It is going to talk to all the aspects that are talking to our new moon partial solar eclipse. So we are talking about opposition with Neptune and Aries, because both Mercury and the sun are in Virgo. And that means a trine with Sedna and Uranus and a trine with Pluto. That's our outer planets. This is big energy, okay? And so we're building this week towards the eclipse on that 21st, which is when we're going to have the sun and the moon, and they're going to be talking in an opposition with Neptune and Saturn. They're going to be trining Pluto and Sedna and Uranus. But the sun is actually going to come into its opposition with Saturn just before the eclipse. Then the moon will, of course, move more quickly, and it will come into its exact aspects with Uranus, Sedna, and Pluto. And then as we move into the equinox on the 22nd and through into the next week, talk about equinox in our next week, we are looking at the sun in that exact conversations with a grand air trine, okay? Because we're going to have the sun entering Libra, which signals our equinox, and then we're going to have that trine, Uranus and Sedna and Pluto. And those are all of our air trines. So that's what we emerge out of the eclipse into, but we are talking about going into it right now. So we're going to have Mercury opposite Saturn on the 17th, okay? It's going to be at 28 degrees of Virgo. And then it's also going to begin its trine with Uranus, Sedna, and Pluto. And then Mercury is going to enter Libra on the 18th. So the importance around this, and I know for folks that are new to astrology, all the aspects and the points, it can be a lot. And so you're just listening. Take what you take and let the rest go. Do not stress. We do not need more stress. But the narrative here, okay, is there may be some clarity coming through. Mercury is our thoughts, our minds. It's the messenger of the gods. Mercury is how we understand. It's literally our voice. And Mercury is journeying along. We've just had a conjunction with the sun. It is journeying alongside the sun, then it's moving ahead, and then we're going to have the sun be opposite Saturn and the sun come into this eclipse. So it is wonderful to journal throughout this week, throughout this eclipse. Lean into the conversations when they are flowing. Lean into the words coming, remembering that there's also potentially a little bit of push and pull in relational dynamics. So I actually would really suggest sidestepping out of those relational dynamics when the tension is there and moving when the flow is there, because when the tension is there, we actually might have more to sit with ourselves. And then if you sit with yourself and you're like, nope, I got to go speak my version of my F off, then you get to go do that. That's up to you. But there's breakthrough energy in our understanding and remembering, again, ultimately, this is not about other people at all. This is about Mercury and Virgo coming into this partial solar eclipse. Opposite, firstly, Saturn. Saturn at the final degrees of Pisces. This absolutely may be insights into what is closing out for you and what is in the process of beginning. Are you actually ready to step forward in some places in your life of what you've been wanting to do, of what you've been calling into you, of what you've been praying for, casting spells for? Is there things that you can do? Yes, it's probably going to change. That Saturn's going back to 25 degrees. It's got to then move forward. Things are going to change. Directions are going to shift. Your own desires and callings are going to shift. And right there, I think it's helpful to just accept that, because we don't need to have everything figured out. But this Saturn is at the final degrees of Pisces, and there is something about your intuition and making the space to listen to that. And that's leading up to the eclipse, Okay. Mercury will then enter Libra on the 18th, and then it will begin to come into its trine with Uranus and Sedna and Pluto. And again, that is deep, it is transformative, and there may be understandings coming through about what the heck has been going on for the past 4 weeks? What has been going on for the past 4 months? What has been going on for the past 40 years? You might get some insights, but not forcing anything, just allowing. On the 19th, we do have Venus switch signs. And the way that Venus switches signs this week is pretty lovely because she does it with the moon. Now, on the one hand, Venus conjunct the moon is not extraordinary. Our moon moves through all the zodiac in a month. But this is happening right on the cusp of an eclipse. Okay, and it's happening during eclipse season. And so Venus is going to move from that 29th degree of Leo into the first degree of Virgo. And she's going to do that with the moon. And they're going to do that in a square to Uranus and Sedna and in a square to Vesta, who's now in Sagittarius. And so just knowing on the 19th that this is deep energy, it is, Venus and the moon moving from that fire, active fire, into yin earth, and they're talking with Uranus and Sedna and with Vesta, who's just entered Sagittarius. There is deep themes of reclaiming, there's radical reclaiming, and it is also that kind of echoing, that reset of listening to the body, which is very much what all of this Virgo work and clearing and resetting has been about, is ways that we can come into new relationship with the body, not with the body as that object that so many of us are taught to objectify ourselves, to measure up to what are at this point almost always digitally altered constructs of the body that we see in different spaces in media. It is the body as this more primal connection to earth and ultimately to spirit. And that is what the Virgo Pisces axis is about. So we have this deep energy of Venus and the moon entering Virgo. And that, of course, sets the moon to come into its conjunction with the sun. And so then we are going to have that sun have its exact opposition with Saturn, depending where you are, the 20th or the 21st. And, that pulls us into the eclipse on the 21st at 3:54 Eastern time. It's at 29 degrees and 5 minutes of Virgo. Of course, it's a new moon. It is that very yin energy, but it's happening as an eclipse. And, opposite Saturn in Pisces at the final degrees, there are deep closings, deep resets. But the reset is kind of like an imprint that then over the next months, as we come into February and then the next eclipse season, we'll actually probably have even more clarity about it then. Here it is just it's almost like this imprint, this pressing into the body-psyche, coming directly from spirit, coming from Saturn, the bone mother, and Neptune at 0 degrees of Eris, because that is also opposite this new moon. And that is an undoing. It is an undoing of whomever yourself has been. Wherever you have 0 degrees of Aries is going to speak to that undoing, the environment, how it's showing up in your life and your sense of self. But there is an undoing there. And it is part of what we're here to be doing and allowing. And that undoing is simultaneously part of the reset, which is also talking with Uranus and Sedna, and also with Pluto. They're in air signs. They're trining this new moon. They're really strong in the equinox energy as we set into the next journey of the seasons in these next 3 months. There are so many cycles speaking with us. And the trines to Uranus and Sedna and to Pluto remembering that trines are flowing. We don't have to do anything with them, and yet they're retrograde. It's powerful energy. It is deep transformation. It is the deepest awakening. With Sedna and Uranus there together, it is potentially awakening to realizing that as something is healing on some of the deepest levels possible, that your journey, your purpose, your sense of self is shifting. And allowing the shift and allowing the process to unfold as it's unfolding. And if you catch yourself comparing yourself, I should be through this by now. I should be like so and so who's up there in the media pedestal, blah blah blahing. I should be like this, please. Those are the exact type of inner critic judgments that we are being asked to abandon. And they come from power over ideologies, and they do not serve us. This is about healing. This is about eradicating the very self-shaming practices that so many of us are taught, that are normalized in too many ways to address right now, at least, in the very information and narratives and stories that we consume, that go into both stories in the media and stories of family. And so this is about easing up. And really, it's also about dreaming new dreams. And that's part of the Pisces energy. And Neptune's going to go back into that final degree of Pisces. And there also could be something about a whole new dream coming through, and that you are ready now to start taking some steps. This is Virgo. It's the final degree of Virgo, embodying the practices. But make sure your gaze is not on 10 years ahead. These aren't practices to get us 10 years ahead. They're practices to take us into the day-to-day, because reality is shifting. And that is what we're working with this week. It's lots, it's big. I am sending lots of love, eclipse blessings to your portaling and journeying, and see you soon. Bye-bye.